Since the early 1990s, McLaren has been transferring its Formula One credentials to the road with a series of super rapid supercars. But now it says it's created something a little bit different, something that's more focused on being comfortable and luxurious. It's called the GT. The McLaren called just GT replaces the 570 GT and sits under a newly created Grand Touring category within the British brand's lineup. Rather than taking on Ferraris and Lamborghinis, it is primed to take on rivals such as the Aston Martin DB11 and Bentley Continental GT. It's not a 2+2-seater in the Grand Touring tradition, despite being the longest McLaren you can buy after the Speedtail 3-seater Hyper GT, but it is otherwise equipped better than any other McLaren for long trips. Now, luggage space isn't the first thing I'd normally talk about with a supercar, but for the McLaren GT it is an important part of the car's repertoire. Now here McLaren's engineers have lowered the rear mid-mounted engine by 12 centimetres into the chassis. Now that's allowed them to create this compartment here. It's about 420 litres. That's a pretty good size. It's a bit narrow, it's a bit shallow, it's a bit of an awkward shape. So you're not going to just chuck anything into this car like you would like a Ford Focus hatchback or a Volkswagen Tiguan SUV. But if you want, you can pay thousands more and get some bespoke luggage from the McLaren Special Operations. So here is a Grand Tourer. Of course, you've got to have your golf set. That pops in there. And your weekend bag. In like that. And you're away. The GT's side intakes also channel some air into the boot compartment to help prevent your possessions from being baked by the engine. As an option, the cargo area can be covered in a highly durable, waterproof and scratch-resistant material called Super Fabric that was co-developed by NASA. However, you may want to put your most important luggage in the 150-litre frunk that's shared with other McLarens and gives the GT a total class-leading luggage space of 570 litres. Bragging rights are always handy in the supercar world, of course, and on the performance side the GT weighs up to half a tonne less than its key rivals. Combined with a 456 kilowatt twin-turbo 4-litre V8 that's also more powerful than competitor V8s, the McLaren GT is 0.8 of a second quicker in the benchmark sprint. Okay, well, the GT's most definitely rapid, but of course, Grand Tourer vehicles are not about sprints. They're about marathons, they're about utterly effortless, continent-crushing journeys with lazy torque. So there's no 12-cylinder option as you get with a DB11 or Continental GT. It's the same familiar V8 from the McLaren world, and it's not short on torque. I'm just finding in this comfort mode that we're in at the moment, the throttle response is a bit doughy and the gearbox feeling a little bit indecisive. So I'm just going to change it up here to Sport. Okay, that's a little bit better. Of course, there is a manual option as well, but it's a Grand Tourer. We're just sticking it in auto. Engine gets a little bit noisier. It's that industrial soundtrack we've also come to know from McLaren. It's not particularly evocative, and for many buyers in the GT market, that's a very important factor. Also on the technology front, no active cruise control, which does seem like a bit of an omission in this kind of class. Not that this McLaren is devoid of clever stuff. The GT features a predictive suspension that uses a combination of sensors and a sophisticated software algorithm to read and learn the road surface. McLaren says it then prepares the dampers in advance of bumps, rather than reacting like a normal adaptive damping setup. And this is a very comfortable ride. I've got to say, we've been around some city streets, we've been out on some windy country roads. Surface quality quite good, it has to be said, but there's quite a lot of pliancy from the suspension. And what you've also got is a very heavy dose of leather up the nostrils. More leather in this car than any other McLaren, as you might expect. It's a very luxury focused theme. There's no exposed carbon fibre from the monocoque tub as in other McLarens. There's no racy Alcantara, just a very focused luxury theme. You also got some different seats. They've got extra padding and a softer type of leather to help you on those longer journeys. And in combination with that relaxing ride, that is a box well and truly ticked. It's true most buyers in the segment use rear seats simply as another storage area for luggage, though they also give affluent parents a place for their kiddywinks. The luggage also won't obscure rear vision, as it does in the back of the GT, though at least there is the expansive forward view we've come to appreciate from the company's supercars. There are further benefits to the GT's mid-engine layout, because its lower and more central centre of gravity is obvious on winding roads, compared to a front-engine rival like the DB11. The hydraulic steering is also simply superb. Brakes are super strong too, though the brake pedal feels overly stiff, asking for more calf muscle effort than ideal for a GT-style car. The GT is priced just under $400,000, to put it in the ballpark of the DB11 and Continental GT, and it's expected to account for about a quarter of McLaren sales, possibly higher in Australia. There are a few chinks in this McLaren's Grand Touring armoury, while you'll want to spend another $20,000 odd to get the most tactile interior. What isn't missing, however, is the GT's ability to mix rapid continent crossing speed with a more supercar-like experience when the road turns twisty.